Assalamualaikum and welcome to Chapter 8 Communication. We have 4 learning objectives that we want to see, we want to learn in this chapter. Okay, first of all, we need to know the definitions of communication. Okay? So, communication can be defined as the process of transmitting a message to the receiver in order to obtain a response. Okay? When you sit here, the process meaning there are stages step by step on how to deliver or transmit to send the message to the other people in order to receive the response or the feedback from that people. Communication also can be said as the process by which a person, group, or organization, all of these who start the communication process, we call as the sender. So transmit some type of information, the information we call as the message, okay, to another person, group, or organization, where we call the receiving part as the receiver. So meaning to say that communication can happen between one person or within a group or to the other organization. So this is the communication process diagram as you see here. It starts from sender, okay, and then transform to encoding. It goes through the encoding process, okay, the message go through the channel and then go through the decoding process to the receiver, and the receiver will give back the message to the sender, what we call as the feedback. So throughout all this communication process, we can see there are a lot of noise. Okay? So noise can happen at any part of the process. Okay? All of this communication process it happen in the social context. Social context is where the communication happen. So let's see the explanation for the element of communication process. So there are 7 components. Okay? The first one we see in the diagram is the sender. Sender is the person who initiates the communication process, okay, by encoding his or her meaning and sending the message through a channel. So the person who starts the communication process, we call it as sender. Sender is the person who sends the message. So the message sent by the sender, okay, first it will go through the encoding process. Encoding translates the sender's ideas into a systematic set of symbols or a language expressing the communicator process purpose. Okay, so encoding is where the process of translating the sender's ideas. Whenever we want to transmit a message to the other person, we want to convey this message to the other person. Of course, we have to think ahead first in our head. Okay, so whatever that we think in our head, we call it as the black box. Okay, so nobody will know whatever they have in our head. So that's why we have to transmit it so that the other person will understand, will get the message. So the process of translate the information that we have in our head into a understanding sets of symbols is what we call as encoding. Okay? So after that, we go through the channel. Channel is the medium by which a message travels. So there are a lot of channels that we can choose in order for us to transmit our messages. We can use face-to-face, we can use written channels and all that. Okay? Decoding. Next is decoding, a receiver's translation of a sender's message. When the message passed through the channel, the receiver receives the message. Okay, so the receiver will start to decode the message. Decode means that the receiver try to translate to understand the message by the sender. Okay, so this receiver is the person or group who receive the message. Those people who receive the message, we call them as the receiver. Okay? Receiver, after they receive the message, they will send the feedback. Feedback is the process of verifying messages, okay? And the receiver's attempts to ensure that the message he or she decoded is what the sender really meant to convey. Okay? So feedback is the process where the receiver sends back the message to the sender. It's very important to send the feedback to the sender to make sure that this is what the sender means to convey, okay, to send. Okay? And the last one we have is noise. Okay? Noise is any internal or external interference or distraction with the intended message that can cause distortion in the sending and receiving of messages. Okay? So noise is any distraction or interference during the communication process. It can happen internally or externally. Internal meaning that all the distraction happen inside the ourselves, okay, whether it can be the sender or the receiver. For example, let's say we're attending class and then you are daydreaming or you're not feeling well or you feel hungry, which all of this will distract you from concentrating to the message. Okay, so this is what we call as internal noise. Okay? The external noise is the surrounding you that will distract you from receiving or focus to the receiver or the sender. Okay? I hope you understand what it means here. Okay? There are two types of communication, okay, the formal and the informal communication. First, we'll look into the formal communication. Formal communication channels follows the chain of command and is recognized as official. Okay, chain of command means that the communication that happen inside the organization where they follow the hierarchy inside the organization. If you remember, inside the organization, in organizing chapter, we have the organizational charts. Okay, so chain of command here meaning that when they communicate, they follow the position inside the according to the organizational chart. Okay. So for the formal communication channel, they have direction of flow. Okay, one way to view formal communication is within organization is to examine how it flows. So you have whether the communication happen from vertically or horizontally. Okay, so what does it mean? Okay, so if you see here the chart, okay, this is the organizational chart. So if you see in the chart, there are two lines, okay, the vertical communication, the red line, and the horizontal communication in the dot line. Okay, so if you see the vertical communication line, okay, it communicate between the communication that happen between the upper level to the lower level, or it can also happen from the lower level to the upper level. Okay. While for the horizontal communication, you see the dot line. Okay, it happen with a parallelly. Parallelly means that it happen with the same position. Okay. Let's see the explanation here. Okay, so we have the information flow, okay, both up and down the chain of command. So we have downward communication and upward communication. Downward communication is messages sent from individuals at higher levels of the organization to those at lower levels. Okay, so when the higher level at the organizational chart, so send the message to the lower level, those people below him. So we call it as the downward communication because the communication happen from upper to the lower. So it is downward, going downward. Okay. For the upward communication, messages sent up the line from subordinates to managers, from people at the lower position to the people higher position. So the communication goes upward. Okay. Okay, that's for the vertical, and we also have for the horizontal, the flow of information that occurs both within and between departments. Okay, within department, for example, between the same level of, let's say, manager, sorry, for clerk with clerk. okay, or executive with the other executive within the same department. It can also happen between the department with the other department. For example, marketing manager communicate with the human resource manager. Okay, so it's very important to have all this horizontal communication because it can increase the coordination between departments. It can also easier for them to collaborate and to get cooperation. So that's it for the first video. We're going to continue all the other objective in the second video.